Name rings.
No. Oh, good afternoon all.
They're pretty uncontroversial. That's a good one.
Thank you, members. Thank you, guests. Just a reminder before we start that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. And as we open, I'll just invite you all to stand and we'll open with our prayer.
John's on.
John online.
So,
Okay. Head in there. I've got apologies from Sunita and from Ashley for absence today. Could I have a mover for those, please? Thank you. I saw Vic and Pauline. All in favour?
Right.
Any against? That's carried. Declarations of interest. I haven't been given any. I don't hear any. Please just remember to raise any if they come up. Item 3, confirmation of previous minutes. Could I have a mover for those? Emma. Can I have a seconder? Pauline, thank you. All in favour?
Right.
Any against? That's carried. And that brings us to our public forum. And we've got our guests online. Cool. So we're going to go to Richard Dawkins first, who's going to speak to us about parking restrictions on Moa Plus. So Richard, you've got 5 minutes. You've probably been given the rundown on that. So we've got 5 minutes, which needs to allow for time for questions as well without members having it. But please do go ahead.
That's great. Thank you. Can you hear me okay there?
Yes, that's all good.
Oh, perfect. I'll kick off. Hey, look, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I want to make it really clear there are actually 2 separate issues at play here, and they're being conflated. So the first is whether I qualify for a resident parking permit in the first place, and the second is whether the existing resident-only parking restriction itself should be removed. These are different questions governed by different parts of the council's policy and regulatory framework. And I'm not here to argue the permit eligibility issue. As you said, I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm here to speak to the second point and ask whether council has followed its own policy before removing the residents-only parking restriction. But before I get into it, I really want to highlight some important context, which is also backed up by my real estate agent's letter provided to you today. I realise this doesn't impact council policy or its interpretation, but I feel it should be noted. So before purchasing my property, I made inquiries with both council staff and the property developer about the resident-only parking arrangement. Both the developer and I were advised it would continue, and that formed part of my decision to purchase the property and the additional value I attributed to it, having the car park. Upon settlement, I went into the council offices and received my permit. This permit was granted without any issue. I've since been told that the permit should not have been issued and that the existing restriction is now considered no longer valid. I'm sure you understand my bewilderment with the situation we find ourselves in. So with that context in mind, the issue I'd like to discuss today is whether this proposed removal of the parking restriction has been undertaken in accordance with the council's own central city parking policy. Throughout this process, the reasons for removal given by the council have changed numerous times. First I was advised the permit had been issued in error. And then the reason was the property's resource consent for Airbnb meant I didn't qualify. Then it later became about whether I qualified as a resident. The memo now relies mainly on the fact that the original cottage has been replaced, for different reasons, changing each time I made inquiries. These are materially different explanations, and they leave me wondering whether the policy has driven the decision, or whether reasons have been developed over time to support an outcome that was already reached. My concern is that the memo does not clearly explain how the recommendation has been assessed against the council's parking policy, thus determining the validity of the reasoning. Policy 6 says existing resident-only parking areas will generally be retained. It specifically refers to reviewing them in areas of no or low demand, and also allows removal where a new residential exemption parking area is proposed. Neither circumstance is clearly identified as applying here. Council has confirmed that no specific occupancy or parking demand data was used. At the same time, its own written response says redevelopment is likely to increase demand for on-street parking. That appears difficult to reconcile with the low demand pathway identified in Policy 6. Now, there is one further point. The memo states its purpose is to inform the board that the parking restriction will be removed. But I have also been invited here to address you today. It leaves me uncertain about the board's role. Is today's meeting genuinely seeking your views before a decision is made, or is the board simply being informed of a decision already reached? Therefore, my request is that the board clarify its role today. If removal remains open to the board's consideration, I ask that it directs staff to pause the process until these policy and governance questions have been addressed. If staff consider the decision has already been made operationally, I ask the board to seek further advice on whether that is appropriate given the formal 2008 resolution and the terms of Policy 6. If the recommendation is sound, then taking a little more time to answer these questions will only strengthen it. If it isn't, then those issues are far better addressed now than through a more intensive and rigorous process later. My request is simple. Look, I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for a fair process and for the council's own policy to be applied consistently. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much. I've got Jake first, and then Jake, if we can make an
Thanks, Richard. We noting we spoke over the weekend, but one of the further thoughts in my mind after our conversation, that dialogue you had with council staff, in that correspondence, were you or the property owner or the real estate agent really transparent that this property would be being turned into 4 other new titles?
Well, look, I can't represent the property developer today. They'd have to speak on their own behalf. But I mean, if a property developer is liaising with council, I would assume that would be being made very clear. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Just picking up on that, for my colleague's reference, the submission from the agent references that during the development of the dwellings, the developer was in direct discussion with council regarding the resident permanent parking arrangements. Just checking in, please, Richard, you referenced additional value that you attributed to the car park. Are you referencing there a sum that you paid differently to the other dwelling units that were for sale? Did you pay a premium for this one so that you had that park?
Yeah, that's right. And that's really important context because, you know, look, if it was just a run-of-the-mill car park and you were losing it, it would be inconvenient. But I didn't really want to disclose it, but maybe this will highlight the situation. Yeah, I mean, I put $15,000 above my original offer because I thought, well, if I can secure that car park, it really gives me a point of difference with my unit. They're quite high-end units, they're quite appealing, and having that car park, I felt if I paid $15,000 and secured it, it would be a really good investment. So that's why and look, I recognise that doesn't change council policy or anything like that, but it's really important context here, eh?
Yeah, that is important context. Thanks for that, Richard. Just the final question then from me is, it's our understanding that there is no decision-making paper for us today and that this decision sits with staff. Have you or do you have or have you had ongoing communication with council staff on this particular issue, and have you given them the same information that's been provided to us, and particularly the submission from the real estate agent?
Yeah, look, so I mean, my is here. Like when I went to put the offer in for the property, I checked with council and I said, look, I know this isn't guaranteed permanently. Like, what are the processes around if it does look at being removed? And they said, oh, no, like, you should be okay. Like, that kind of decision goes through your local community board and you'd have a chance to chat with them, and they don't often get removed. So, you should be okay. So that's why the bewilderment when staff came along and said it's been removed. And look, I've just had an email this morning saying, oh, this isn't up to the board. This is decided and it's a management decision. So right up until this morning, I was still of the belief that this was a community board decision. And yeah, look, I have screeds of email discussing all of these things with council staff. It's been going on for months, so happy to share those if you would like them.
Okay, just more particularly, there's 4 questions asked in the submission from the real estate agent. Have you asked those questions of council staff? And if you haven't, can I suggest you do?
I would have to just have a look at those. I'm just bringing them up now. The 4 questions.
Sorry,
Yes.
you're cutting out a bit, Richard.
I have asked the first 3. I haven't asked about compensation or anything like that. I didn't want to go there just at this point. I would like to. I thought I'd try and solve it through you fine folk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Richard. Thanks for putting your case and explaining the situation. I appreciate that. There's not a decision in front of us as a community board to make on this. It's being managed within staff delegations, but what today has given us an opportunity for you to publicly put your position and sort of put that on the public record. And what we can do is ask that all the information that's being presented to us today does go before the staff that are involved with us. That was the next step. We're going to have to. So,
that's great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I do guess I just request, as representatives of ratepayers like me, if you do feel this is, not completely, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, I'd really appreciate any help you could give me. So thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you. Next we have Susan Peake, who's going to talk to us about parking restrictions and corners in Papanui. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. What do I do, Chris?
You want to get a red light. Red means go. That's it. And you've got 5 minutes as well.
As opposed to red means stop.
Thank you. Who's going to do the beeping when I can continue?
I can just.
Thanks, Simon. It's really lovely to be here. I want to talk about parking too, and looking at predominantly a couple of streets in the Living Streets area and also Dormer Street. So Simon has very kindly shaded out the number plates for me. So thank you, Simon.
No.
Mark.
I think Simon told him to.
Okay. So, I can't see. Oh, is that, which one?
That's the first corner, Rayburn Ave at Grants Road.
Isn't it, Jack?
Rayburn and right.
Plate's been covered up.
I just wanted to request consideration, and Mark did point out that I could go directly to traffic. However, I really wanted just to highlight this as an issue in Papanui, and basically it comes, I think, from rat runners and infill housing. So this is Rayburn Ave and Grants Road coming up from the city. And you can see people parked on either side on the yellow lines. I'm requesting consideration on the left-hand side that the yellow lines of no parking go down as far as the first house's driveway. That would give a little bit more room for people to swing around if they're coming from Grants Road from the east. So I remember being here and a traffic advisor saying that this corner is really deceptive. And it's used to be where the number 18 bus used to come round and always ride up over the pavement. So that's the first consideration. And then the next one is, sorry, I've got different glasses on. That's Mary Street and Grants Road. Mary Street and Grants Road. Okay, same issue there. Street and Grants Road. Is there another part to this one, Mark? No, Mary. I can't remember what what I talked about on that one. Go back,
The
please.
cars parked on this.
Yeah,
bricks.
yeah. Same thing. There aren't any yellow lines on this area. And it's the streets are so narrow that people have to stop to give way. And on the corners, people often go over the white lines, the centre lines. So that's another one. And then that one is, that's Frank Street and Mary Street.
Yes.
And you can see where that car is parked, the SUV is parked right on the corner, which I've never seen happen before, but it's a really dodgy corner too, where people swing out where they come from Frank Street, think they've got a bit of a clear run, and also coming down from Mary Street, clear run, and just put their foot down and swing over the thing. You can see the third on the bottom one, there's a yellow van that's always parked there. That's still on the bend also. So same thing on that corner. And that's that one. And this is...
That's Dormer.
Oh, Dormer Street. Right. Dormer Street is really interesting because now there are 3 businesses in this area. There's the medical centre, the chemist and the physiotherapist. And it is always chock full of cars. And I think from Monday to Friday, it really is full. And there are no yellow lines coming off Papanui Road down Dormer. There are from Perry Street, which I find really unusual because this is the carrier road, Dormer, from coming down Blythe Road, doing a right turn into Papanui Road, straight ahead, left turn. And why I'm bringing this to you is a man in the neighbourhood told me that he was going to visit his daughter in Rayburn Ave. He came down Blythe Road, turned into Papanui Road, and then left into Dormer. The car in front of him stopped so that a car coming the other way could pass him. And he managed to get off okay. However, the car behind him didn't and rear-ended him. So that's a really dodgy corner because you have to get off Papanui really quickly because of the continual stream of traffic. So, and there aren't any yellow lines on that. And I would be suggesting that they take them all the way back to the first driveway. And that's it.
Super, thank you. That is about 5 minutes. I've got a question for the gentleman.
Thank you. I'm sure we can take this under consideration and then look at extending those yellow lines in those places. And, maybe it makes sense in some places or doesn't or not. Well, I don't know. We'll find out. But my question was, there seems to also be an enforcement issue. There was one photo where the car was quite clearly yellow light. You can phone it in and...
Yeah, I think by the time you do that, they're gone.
Right.
Not always. I noticed that the one in Gambier Street, I was just saying to Simon that I got verbally abused for taking photos by this man on a bike with his helmet resting on his handlebars, mind you, telling me that I had no right to take these photos, etc., etc. And he said one of those was his cars. And that was the one in Gambier Street coming off Grants Road. If you have 2 cars parked on that corner place, the latter one will always be on the yellow line.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thank you. And back.
Yeah, just a question really for you, Chair, whether we can check, there should already be something in the system for Dormer Street because I'd already put through a request on behalf of an elderly resident for that street and was told there'd be a parking assessment undertaken by the relevant team. So worth noting.
I think to me, I've recently got a new puppy and I walk around the areas a lot more. So it makes sense to have input from local people. And I made a request about the parks and our park manager came and met with me and we walked through the areas and it was great. She was able to see it through local eyes.
Thank you, Susan. We would always encourage where parking infringements are seen, if people are parking on broken yellow lines, for them to be reported.
Okay.
But clearly you've raised a few areas there as well where there's some questions about whether that should be considered. So we can ask staff to pass what you've presented to us through to our traffic engineer. And yeah, as Victoria has said, there's might be something in the system already for Dalton Street too.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
I can always give you a high vis jacket when you're out walking.
Yeah.
I might need it. Actually, the dog needs it. She's too small.
A very official badge as well.
Yes.
So they said will give you a very official badge as well, so people don't hassle you.
With a secret camera in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody. Have a
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
It's interesting though, the concept of living streets. Streets that didn't need any giveaway signs or markings. It was about living and sharing the road together.
Mm.
And now increasingly we're seeing requests for giveaway signs and lines.
I think the volume of traffic is so much higher.
Yeah, and more intensification of the housing as well, and more traffic. So that brings us to Papanui Heritage Group. So we've got Deford Williams and Margaret Lovell-Smith who are going to talk us about a proposal for storyboards for our Papanui Memorial Avenues.
Just before we start, Dr. Murray Williams, who a lot of you know, wrote the quite iconic village. I'm just trying to sort the Stormerling village to suburb. And that's a great local history. He passed away on Sunday, so sad about that. Yeah. But I'll pass over to Margaret because she's got the slideshow. So.
Does this move it on or do you move it
Tell me, or that machine would work as well if you want.
just with the arrow?
The arrows, yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Our group is basically seeking support for our project, which is to raise awareness and improve understanding of Papanui's rail avenues. And we're suggesting this can be done by installing 4 interpretation boards or storyboards adjacent to some of the avenues. So over the past year, we've been working on this, discussing the content for the boards, and we've agreed on some basic information, which I've put up on that slide. We think that this is the information that is kind of necessary on each one of the boards, just so that people know what they're about. It includes facts about when the streets were planted, the names of the streets, and also makes a brief comment about the age of the servicemen who died and the countries where their graves are. So the information about the men's ages and the war cemeteries comes from the research we've done into 18 Papanui servicemen. And I could say more about the research, but I won't because I know we've only got 5 minutes. But what I would say is that there's one source that we haven't managed to see yet, and that is the Roll of Honour for 1939 to 1945 that was unveiled at the Papanui RSA Hall on Anzac Day 1952. And that was reported in the press, and it's possible that it is now in a container stored at Burnham Camp. So I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to access this, but what we found when we looked at the plaque in the Rose Garden, it is actually not a plaque for World War II fatalities. It's a mixture of all kinds of things. We only found one name on that list, which was actually a Papanui serviceman who died in World War II. So we suggest, well, we know that the City Council will make the final decision about the placement of the storyboards, but our suggestion for this one, which includes Harry Tillman in it, would be the corner of St James Avenue and Windermere Road, both of which streets are Memorial Avenues. And of course, they're also close to Tillman Avenue. The storyboard features a North African cemetery. We know at least 4 of the Papanui men lost their lives in Tunisia or the Western Desert. Reflecting that at least 4 Papanui men died in Italy, this board features images from that country, plus a photo of the Elmwood Home Guard. And the site we suggest for this one is the off-street sitting and garden area at the intersection of Hartley Avenue, which is a Memorial Avenue, and Hawthorne Street. This is in Strohan, next to the footbridge over the railway line.
two more Memorial Avenues are nearby, the short no exit road Lansbury Avenue off Hawthorne Street and Hulton Street, part of which is a Memorial Avenue. This board features the warship Gambia and a Peter McIntyre painting of the Blitz over Crete and a photo of the Cedar Bay War Cemetery in Crete. Our suggested location is the intersection of Gambia Street and Wyndham Street. Gambia is a Memorial Avenue, Wyndham isn't, but the reason that we've suggested that corner is because, once again, there's this kind of sitting area. It's also quite close to Dormer and Perry Streets, both of which are Memorial Avenues. And finally, this one features Mr. Burrows planting a tree in Perry Street in August 1946 in memory of his son, and also another painting by Peter McIntyre and a war cemetery in France, where one of the Papanui men is buried. So these are just suggestions. It's very early stages, but and anything can be moved around, because of course another location for this one might be Perry Street, given that we actually have a photo of a tree being planted. So I'll hand over to David now.
Yeah. I think Papanui, of all the suburbs, probably tells its story probably better than any other suburb. You know, you look at the St Paul's at the church, plus all the storyboards, the Horners and the Grants and that, and it's important for schools too. I think, you know, for students to get this sort of sense of being and belonging. We had Josie from Papanui, the head of social sciences, and she's keen to work and collaborate with us. The other thing, we're one of these, we were looking at like Rutland Reserve too, because a lot of foot traffic and bike traffic, and I think, you know, telling the story. One of the things that amazes me looking around all those different storyboards, and I'm not wanting to encourage it, but there's no graffiti, you know, so I think that they are treated with the respect that they deserve, you know, from the sawmilling. And Anzac Day, in a lot of ways, even with the RSA closed, I went to the service at the Papanui Club, and that, you know, seeing young kids and that is a really important part of our story. And I think if we can, you know, display that and make it part, you know, there's a lot of high schools and intermediates, primary schools in our area that gives them, you know, heritage walks. And we've got, I won't go into it in detail now, but we've got sort of bigger plans too in terms of QR codes of, you know, showing sanitarium and all the things that the Methodist orphanage, you know, there's a incredibly rich history in Papanui that I think we should be proud of and that we should display.
Thank you. I'm curious if you've turned your mind to questions of cost or how costs might be covered, something like that.
Yes. Well, actually, we've had a very supportive letter from Amanda Rose, but one of her first suggestions was that we approach the community board because she said they do sometimes have funding for this sort of project. So we are, that is really, we would love to hear about funding. And the other thing is we would love for the boards to be obviously professionally designed and produced. And I'm hoping that might be able to be done in-house and by council.
Amanda's a staff member at council.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Yeah. Thank you. How many boards are you actually talking? I'm a little bit lost in all this.
There's 15 avenues, but there'd be 4 boards.
Yeah. So there's and the avenues tend to be in kind of clusters. So there's kind of the St James and then Strohan, and then 2 parts of the east side of Papanui Road.
Yeah. And you would be able to provide all the relevant information to go on the boards and even some of the photos, obviously.
Yes.
You're just wanting council to manage the design and the construction of
Yes.
And then there's maintenance.
Oh, okay.
I need a little group that prepared to go and been any graffiti off and things like that?
The ones that were done, you know, the family stories,
Yeah.
we've been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, and there's plantings around them and whatnot that maintenance, but I think the boards themselves sort of.
Yeah.
And the ones at the church too, are pretty remarkable the time that they've been there, and it's
Good
state
sign.
there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Victoria.
I'm okay.
Okay, look, thank you very much. The board does have a discretionary fund, which is open to applications for all kinds of purposes from all groups. And that's something you could definitely talk to staff about, is whether this would be a fit to make an application to that. I'd certainly be in favour of, you know, working with staff around design and
Stacey's
siting.
gone to get her details for you. She'll be back in any moment.
Okay, before you head away, if you take Stacey's details, but we'll close that one there. But thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Everything you do. That's really
Idea.
Thank you.
I live on one of the streets, so. I live on Norfolk Street.
Oh, you could pay for that one. We'll increase that one. Property.
Research and problems. Not compare her surname, but and you know, done various publications on a lot of work at Cape Shepherd House in recent times.
Great.
So,
It's really important to retain this information, isn't it, for the future? Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So it brings us to item 5, deputations, for which we do not have any. Item 6, presentation of petitions. We do not. So just checking, do we have another public forum submission? Are you here to speak to us?
If I could, my hearing is not very good.
Well, I'm happy to accommodate.
I'm Peter Kerr. I was made the second submission on the Craighead Reserve. And I've had an unhappy time of getting to this meeting, I'm afraid.
So before we start, our public forum is open for matters which haven't been the subject of a submission process. We just need to check with staff if we can take a presentation on that. Is this in relation to the tree planting plan that's taken?
I was raising 2 issues. One was the trees. And in relation to them was safety. Now, I don't know whether that was discussed at your last meeting or not. I didn't get advice of that meeting. The letter I got was not properly addressed. And the meeting was over by the time I received it.
Okay.
And I've tried to make contact with the relevant person in the council, and that's been without success too.
Oh, sorry.
So
before
my concern is the safety of small children.
So sure. Before we proceed, I do just need to check whether it's procedurally appropriate for us to hear that here. Also noting we did make a decision at our last meeting on the tree planting plan.
Trees, yes.
But take a seat for a moment, sir. Sorry, and we'll just sort out our process. That's what I'm saying.
You're good.
Yeah, look, happy to give you 5 minutes for to speak to us on this. That 5 minutes needs to allow any time for questions from us. And if I could just ask you to confirm the name, sorry, sir.
John Peter Kerr.
Thank you. Please go ahead, John.
I live in Sawyers Arms Road, and I think I'm probably the only resident that directly overlooks that park. I'm down along the end of a long right of way, and I also walk through it at least twice a week. So I'm reasonably familiar.
Yes.
Now, I'm concerned. If we go back a few years, I was involved in that New Hurst Township, which was moved from down on the sea beach to inland a bit. And there was all sorts of advice we were given, and one from an anthropologist who was concerned for both the wives who were going to be left behind all day and also for small children. And there was a right of way between two streets. She had that widened, came up with a big and suggested, or it wasn't a suggestion really, and that was to be developed for small children, swings and slides, and also a figure of 8 with a enclosed in the oval for really small children on trikes and things. But the thing I remember is that she was adamant there should be no planting in there of trees or shrubs. It was to be kept wide open and safe for small kids. Craighurd Reserve is anything but that. The area for small children is completely enclosed in big trees. And what makes it worse, there has been additional planting to surround the area itself. And I think it's quite unsafe. So my first suggestion is that additional planting should be removed. It doesn't feel right as a small place for children to walk past it. Mm-hmm. And the better place for it would be where the wildflower planting is proposed, because a parent there or a minder could look after a small child on the swings and the small train and that sort of thing, and also on the cycleway where some quite young kids move. The amount of trees in there, and there's going to be more, makes an ideal site for predators. And that's the message I would like to leave with you.
All right, thank you. Checking if we've got questions. Look, thank you, John, and I appreciate that you've taken the trouble to come and speak to us today, and apologies if something's gone wrong with the communications in relation to our last meeting. We have made a decision to improve the plan as it was proposed.
I've received notice of that, yes.
In general, when a plan like that is approved, staff will retain some discretion around finessing the plan or minor changes. What I think is we could offer is just to ask if staff involved could make contact with you, perhaps just to make sure they clearly understand your concerns and see if there's any adjustments that would respond to those.
After my submission, I had a visit from 2 people. I don't know whether they were council staff or Bofamuscles, and I did discuss this with them at that time. So,
did you get any response from them?
I don't think they were interested. I think there were 3 people.
Right.
3 people. 3 people or 3 people?
3.
Sorry?
All right. I said 3 people or 3 people?
Greens, yeah, 3 people.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at the report that came to our decision-making meeting, and the concerns you raised were reflected in the community feedback that was shared with us there.
So staff are already aware, are they?
So staff had seen that. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Look, thank you, John. I appreciate you coming to flag it to us. And it's something we'll
thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. That will bring us through to item 7, which is the 2 intersections on Fitzgerald Ave, and we might have some staff online. Hello, Gemma.
Kia ora. So I was just going to give a brief introduction. We've got two intersections on Fitzgerald Avenue. We need to do an asset renewal for the traffic signals, and it's a chance to incorporate some additional safety features, including the staggered crossings on Fitzgerald Avenue, and also to introduce right turn green arrows for people turning right from Fitzgerald Avenue into the side roads. So I was generally going to take the report as read and ask if there was any questions.
Fine. Was there a question?
Oh, no, I was happy to move.
I've got a question from Pauline and then Mike.
Thank you. We maybe have the same question, I don't know, but so yeah, I'm supportive of this because I think that you're using the opportunity for the upgrade anyway to increase and add improvements. But I've had an email, and I think you have too, Mike and Emma, from Danny. Wondering why there's no cycle lanes painted on the street here in this area. Is there an opportunity to put these in as well at the same time on Fitzgerald Ave?
So Fitzgerald Avenue is our major arterial corridor, and there is limited space along that corridor to accommodate cycle lanes as well as retain the existing number of traffic lanes. So rather than just putting them kind of on the approaches to intersections, I think it would have to be a wider corridor investigation so that you would have, I guess, consistency along the corridor rather than just kind of sporadic targeted cycle box. I mean, we can look at some advanced cycle boxes, but really we're currently at trying to move traffic along these streets so that it's not all routing through central city. So there needs to be those number of lanes at intersections to maintain capacity for vehicles. So it's really just trade-offs between users. We can look to do the small cycle boxes at Fitzgerald Avenue on the approaches for the left turn lanes and the through lanes. For right turners, we have included the hook turns so that you cross the intersection and then make the right turn with the side road.
Okay, so it's mainly because of its status, it's major arterial corridor. You don't have the room to put them in, but you will look at putting those boxes, and I personally find them really helpful when I'm on a bike. So that will be really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I can certainly look at that for you in detailed design.
Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. I have another question. I was just curious, with the staged approach to the pedestrian crossing, how much extra time does that actually add to someone having to cross the road if they've got to wait for another phase?
So ideally, the traffic signals are set up so that when you get to the middle, you effectively get your turn again. It's really only it shouldn't add a significant amount of time. It just means that as a pedestrian, it does feel a lot safer. Even when we were out on site doing the observations and trying to cross the road, people were turning left and right in front of us trying to cross. So it's a trade-off again between safety and efficiency for people walking across the road. We do try and minimize that time in the middle so that we are running concurrent phases within the traffic signals to try and minimize that. But from a safety perspective, especially if you're elderly or you're vision impaired, having the middle part to just pause does give you that increased feeling of safety.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I just notice sometimes on the ones down Beeley Ave, like you see people having to wait for the green light to cross to the middle, and then they've got to wait a whole complete phase to get across the next one, which actually can sometimes be quite long when Beeley Ave gets the longer phases. But yeah, that's good to hear that it's not designed to do that.
No, and I'll take that feedback back to our real-time operations team.
Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, there's no Pauline a second, just checking there's no other questions. Super, does anyone want to debate?
No, are you?
No.
Just to say, look, this is excellent that the way the staff have looked for doing the work anyway. Let's do this extra stuff to address the safety issues here. and rather than do the work and then address the safety issues later. So I think this is exactly what we want.
That was one of the best speeches you've ever given,
Thank you.
Pauline. It's very well put.
And thanks, Gemma.
Super. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
See what we keep saying to them.
And Gemma will keep you there, or possibly go to your colleague to talk about 90 Fitzgerald Ave at Livingston Street.
Wait a second.
Ben, do we have you for that one? We've just got you on mute at the moment.
Yes, kia ora, how you going?
Yeah.
Apologies for my raspy voice. So yeah, just a quick introduction to this report. It seeks the approval for the installation of authorised vehicle-only parking restrictions on Livingston Street, next to the property of 90 Fitzgerald Ave. The proposal was developed in response to a request from the property owner to park their vehicles on the footpath. The footpath in this instance is located on their private property, and they have full right to do so. So in this case, the authorised vehicles only parking restriction would be rather than parking their vehicles on the footpath, they would enable to park their vehicles on the curbside, and would be limited to a maximum of 10 vehicles whose number plates would be provided to council. Council does not normally provide on-street parking for the direct use or benefit of a single business or entity, but the extraordinary circumstances of property ownership in this case require an exemption to this rule. Engagement with nearby property owners and tenants was undertaken in August last year. 3 submissions were received, with 1 against and 2 for. The submission against mentioned that this restriction would further reduce the supply of on-street parking and make it more difficult to find for their tenants to find parking in the area. The licence agreement has been prepared by council staff to allow council to occupy private property, in this case the footpath, and sets out the terms and conditions for both parties that they need to adhere to. The authorised vehicles only parking spaces is the key consideration to this agreement, so there's no exchange of financial incentives or otherwise. The licence agreement has been agreed to in principle and will be signed by delegated council staff in the property consultancy team following the resolution of the authorised vehicles only parking spaces today. We hope this proposal is a pragmatic solution to a long-standing issue to help provide unobstructed footpath access for pedestrians and protects council's parking enforcement and compliance teams from reputational damage. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Victoria.
Sorry, I've just got a question.
Yeah. We'll go to questions. What an interesting situation. It's more of a comment than a question, but you may go for it.
I was just wondering how long the agreement is for.
Yeah, so the agreement, it doesn't have an end date per se. It will kind of be in perpetuity, but of course it gives council rights to remove at I think with 3 to 6 months notice for any reason that council thinks fit. So that protects our ability to convert or change the use of that space if funding is provided by council, let's say in the long-term plan, to do a streetscape renewal and widen the footpath around the private property boundary, or conversely, if council could purchase that land and then the authorised vehicles only parking spaces would be removed.
So at the present time, if the owner wanted to, they could rebuild right out to onto the footpath.
Yes, that's correct. They could literally extend their building. I think there's power lines close by, so they would need to comply with other rules and regulations. And I guess, in 1986, I think it was, or 1981, somewhere around then, there were plans for council to complete this widening. I think that was in one of the attachments to the report. However, that plan never went ahead, and we currently find ourselves in the situation we're in today.
Thank you. John, I saw a hand from you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Hello, Ben. It does seem like an eminently pragmatic solution. Makes complete sense. But my question is also about tenure of the agreement and whether it survives over into another owner, if and when this property sells, are we back to square one if there's a new owner who is less cooperative than the current one?
We would have to double check, but I'm pretty sure we've got standard rights of refusal within the license document, and that would allow, or I can't remember the exact thing. We'll have to get our lawyer legal team online, but we've made sure that all the provisions provided to the current owner and tenants would need to be renewed if there was a change in property ownership. So that wouldn't be automatically just like handed over. They would need to reply. And I should also mention that the authorised vehicles only number plates, there will be a maximum of 10, and they will need to be updated in writing by the tenants themselves or by the property owner, and council will maintain those records on file. So there will always be, I guess, some turnover and maintenance or administration of this system, but it should be fairly minor in the long run. And we've tried to make sure our legal teams have been across any loopholes that would potentially allow the business owner to use that space for purposes that are not in relation to what we've agreed now.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Thank you. Victoria's happy to move. Do we have a seconder?
Yep.
Emma, thank you very much. No other questions. We'll go to debate. Is there any debate on this one?
Jake, good debate.
No. Wow. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you. Cheers.
And that brings us to item 9, which is our area.
We will take the report as read, happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you. I know you've got it in here with the Westminster sports, but can you give us any verbal, anything else, how it's progressing?
Slowly.
I was hoping you'd say something else.
Staff are in, Sina, who is our Pacifica liaison officer, is in direct contact with the Pacifica group. Like all good things, is taking time. But when there's updates, we ask, Sina's happy to come, once there is some movement, she's happy to come and present to the board the updates.
So it's a happening thing. It's just taking a while to get to first base.
Yes.
Okay.
And hopefully, once we get to first base, things will move.
Thank you.
Quickly.
Say anything.
Emma.
In regards to Westminster Park, there as well, there's an area that's boggy, really boggy. It could be a good idea to have a planting day or something and actually start making a home on the site.
We talk to the parks team.
Do a planting day down there and invite them along to help plant that out and give them some ownership of the space. Encourage them and
it's a good idea.
All right. Any other questions for staff? Otherwise, I'll get motion to receive. Would someone like to put that? Thank you, Pauline. And Mike has seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. And that brings us to elected members' information exchange. I'll just open by just letting you know that we had a board chairs and staff forum last week. We talked about a couple of things there, including the long-term plan process, about which I'm sure as a board will, more information will be coming in the coming weeks and months. As a community board, the time for us to have input is essentially late September and into October. That's the first round of drafting, and that's where we will talk a bit more as a submissions committee, no doubt, closer to that. There was also a request from community board chairs back to staff for more detailed information to be provided. For example, a bit of unrolling of what sits within programs and so on. So that has gone back to staff for consideration. We also talk about the Head Start pathway, and there'll be an opportunity, should we wish to take it as a community, to speak to council on the 4th of August. We have any views as a board we wish to put as the council is getting to the sharp end of that process. That was the 2 key topics of discussion there. Pauline?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for that update. That's really helpful. So what, the first one, what we were talking about, the
LTP.
Yeah. So I personally think it's quite late for boards, to be feeding in at that point. Was there any will to kind of request that the boards be heard earlier than that?
I guess the feedback from staff was primarily, the board's main tool for feeding into that process is our board plan, which we put a bunch of work into and approved not that long ago. The timing that's been given to us was intended to fit between an initial draft that should be available around 1 September, as the notes I've got, and so things getting more fully locked in by the end of the year.
I think ideally going forward that the board's stuff needs to be in the initial draft, which means it should have been in a lot earlier. I mean, the board plan is one thing, it's very high level, plus in community board areas, things change along the way. I mean, you've got specific, let's say it's probably sport projects that are built. So you're saying that staff are using the plan as the scaffolding for boards and then they'll feed that in.
That's
and
right.
Then from there, when's the next crack at it with the boards? So I think we're trying to get it pretty much built before Christmas.
Yes, yep. So that is the window. What was those dates I gave? September into October. That's the window we've got to climb through if we want to.
So then, do we need to have some sort of a workshop prior to that to kind of identify if there's any specific projects that we may think that we might need a little bit of funding for the LTP? Like particularly, I am thinking of transport because that seems to be the big one. It's outside of our plan, or it's in the plan but not identified.
Yes, I'm not sure if we've got anything.
September, October.
Timetable.
We've not timetabled a meeting for you yet, but September, October is the time, probably earlier rather than later. But any defined projects with what level of service it is and an estimated cost.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
All right, anybody else?
No. What did the chiefs talk about was the Head Start? Because I mean, there's been talk about if it without some amalgamation, but it's important to look at not repeating what's happened in Auckland, where the local boards have got no connection to any central governing body. Was that kind of raised?
Not in that level of detail. I think this was discussed at the previous chairs and staff forum as well, and it's going to at the informal meeting at council. My feeling is we're as well informed as we can be under the circumstances, given that it's very much an involving process for staff and for councillors as well. So I'm happy with the information that's come back in this sense. We're not missing any information, if you like, and we are now being given that heads up. Take a few weeks away, but I would expect there'll be more. We will see more in the coming weeks, which will give us an opportunity then to respond to that on the 4th of August.
I think tomorrow you'll see more.
It's interesting, the forum that we had last Friday before out at Lincoln. Was it Thursday?
It was a Thursday.
Very mixed views around the room, and there was how many people there? 100 or so. But yeah. So, and one comment I remember was one fellow, and I think he was from Timaru, and said it's all very well for the government to say, come to us and tell us what your idea is, But as soon as you do that, it's a catch-22. If you don't do that, they'll come to us with them. As soon as you do it, they'll say, well, this is what you wanted. You're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Right, if there's nothing further, we will close the meeting at 5 o'clock on the dot. So we'll just sit. So very close.
Tina.